And one of the areas where I see a lot of people struggling is when it comes down to the financial part of their business, because they're trying to do the right thing and they're trying to get someone that can help them. And they'll say something like, oh, I need an accountant. And or some business owners have asked me like, hey, do you think I need an accountant? I was like, well, the honest answer is it depends. What are you trying to do? Because not all accountants are created equal. There are different things that accountants specialize in. Some accountants specialize in tax, some specialize in bookkeeping, some do other things. I'm going to talk through in this short video, I'm going to talk through the different types of accountants, what they do, kind of some general, what's kind of the use case for some of them. Because when you confuse and think that all accountants are the same, that's where I see a lot of business owners that are paying someone and they're wasting money. Like having a conversation with someone last week, and they were just, actually not last week, it was a couple weeks ago. We were talking through some things and they said, hey, my business did, $750,000. And at the end of the year, I have no idea what the heck is going on with my money. And I'm like, okay, all right, that is a problem. First, I asked him, I was like, hey, are you working with an accountant? Do you have like a bookkeeper or something? I was like, yeah, I have an accountant. And I'm like, and they're not helping you? And one of the things about it was like, when they heard the word accountant, they assume, we assumed that we were talking about the right thing. But then I had to go back and ask a couple of questions to really help them understand, okay, why are you experiencing this situation, or why is this problem? And so as we talked about it, we began to address it. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about exactly what is an accountant and the different types of accountants, so you're not wasting your money. But before I jump into that, for those that are new, that are just, you just clicked on this link or someone told you about it, give you a little bit of context. My background is accounting and finance. I'm a CPA, a certified public accountant, and I worked in corporate America for years with some of the world's biggest Fortune 500 companies, working from investor relations, working with Wall Street analysts, to working with CEOs, CFOs. And also I've worked in smaller organizations as well, private equity backed. And now I run my own accounting firm, the TL Turner Group, where we focus on bookkeeping and CFO services. Those words are going to make more sense to you in like a couple minutes. And then also one of the things that I do is I create a lot of free content explaining stuff like this, because when it comes down to being in business, most people who start a business, they don't really understand the financial side of it, and that's fine. So my goal is to help make it a little less complicated. And then for those that, that I can explain in a video, answer some questions, great, they got what they need. But then there are some people who come back and say, hey, I heard your explanation, but I still need some help. Like I need your firm to actually step in and to do this for us. And so we do that as well. But I create a lot of the videos because I really want to help a lot of people, just explain stuff that you may not know. And sometimes I think some people they feel like they should know, and they feel a little embarrassed to ask the questions. So that's why I always tell people, hey, submit whatever questions. When it comes down to business, there are no dumb questions. And I will say is, if you don't ask the question and if you don't get the answer that you need, you could be causing yourself to lose money. And that's not the situation that I want you to be in. So I really like to do a lot of the videos to do that. Now, back to the main question that we're answering, like, what is an accountant? Now, one of the ways that I help people understand kind of this is that, not all accountants are equal. There are different types of accountant, and they do different things. And one analogy, or I guess you say way to understand that is, if you're kind of looking at the screen, I mean, what you see is all of these things on this screen are vehicles. They are vehicles of some type. Some of them are utility vehicles like the forklift. Some of them are, military vehicles. Some of them are RVs, classics. You got a sports car in there. Like all of these are vehicles. And if you wanted to, I guess you say, get technical, you can start to then group these type of vehicles into different categories. Now, if you were going to a dealership and you said, hey, I needed to buy a new vehicle, and let's say you had a family of 5 and you had small kids and you had to make room for car seats, you probably wouldn't expect the car dealer to go bring you back a forklift. or you probably wouldn't expect them to bring you a monster truck because that's not what you're actually looking for. Now, you're looking for a vehicle, but there's a little bit more specificity about it. And the same thing happens when it comes down to accountants, because I have a lot of business owners that come and say, hey, I need to get an accountant. I'm like, okay, all right, what are you exactly trying to do? And then that'll help me tell you what type of accountant you actually need. Because what I don't want you to do is, I don't want you to hire someone and pay an accountant that isn't going to help you solve the problem you're trying to solve. Because if you do, you're wasting your money. You're not going to get the help that you need. And as a business owner, you don't want to be wasting money. You want to use your money wisely, and you want to put it into things that are going to actually solve your problem. So here's the quick summary. When it comes down to what is an accountant, there are different types of accountants. I mean, from your, and the way I kind of range this is in level of complexity. So your bookkeeper is going to be on the most basic level. I mean, that's where they're reconciling transactions. And like, if you've ever used a tool like, QuickBooks or Xero or FreshBooks or Zoho Books, if you've ever used any system like that, usually your bookkeepers are going to be the ones that actually, help keep that stuff organized, put things into the right accounts, reconcile, make sure the balances in your financial statements tied to, let's say, your bank statement or your loan agreements. Like, they're going to do the basic level of accounting. Now, sometimes that can get a little bit more complex. So, I mean, there is some level of complexity there as well. But then when things get really complex, where you start really dealing with some very, I guess you say, complex type of accounting and different things like that, you may then need to upgrade to someone more like a controller. This is a person that typically has more advanced accounting knowledge, to where they know the rules and the regulations in a bit more detail than your standard bookkeeper. And a lot of times you see controllers are people who've had jobs in different corporate functions and corporate roles, because that's where they've had to do more, like I said, more complex accounting. And then you get over into taxation. Now, the reason why I put taxation separate, because some people just assume that if you're an accountant, you automatically know tax. And I deal with this a lot because I am a CPA, and typically you'll find that a lot of CPAs, they do taxes, like or you'll see an EA, which is an enrolled agent. They specialize in taxation, but not every accountant knows how to do taxes well. And one of the things that I tell all of the people who reach out to me and say, hey, I need somebody to help me file my taxes, and I'm just honest with them to say, hey, I can give you some general guidance, but I don't specialize in tax. What I specialize in are bookkeeping and CFO services. Like, I specialize in those two areas. And so I don't spend a lot of time when it comes down to taxation. And that is very important for you to know, because when you're a business owner, a lot of people just assume that, hey, all I need is a tax person. Someone's going to help me file my taxes. Well, the businesses that I have seen to be successful, they don't just have a tax accountant. What they also have is they may have a person who's either a bookkeeper or controller. And if they're really trying to be successful, or they're really taking things to the next level, they have someone who does a little bit more of kind of your CFO level type work. Now, moving on from tax to CFO, a CFO is a person who's really going to be a little bit more on, I guess you say, the strategy side of your business, where they understand the strategy of your business. They understand the bookkeeping. They understand accounting. They have a general idea and understanding about taxation. But what they really, really do is they help you pull all of that together, all the knowledge from those other areas. They help pull all that together. And then they help you figure out, how do we look at this strategically? How do we position the business moving forward? Like, some of the things that I've worked with some of my clients on, where it's like they were looking to expand. So, okay, how do we position the business to make sure that we can get investors to put enough money into the business so we can get that $500,000 so we can open up these next locations? Or, hey, how do we, present the right information to the bank so that we can get a loan to fund the continual growth of this business? Or even other things of like, hey, here are the products that we're selling. What should the prices be so that we make sure that the business is profitable and that we're able to actually continue growing and really running the business. So when it comes down to an accountant, one of the things that you definitely want to understand is not all accountants are created equal. There is a difference between the types of accountants. So the next time you hear a business owner say, "Hey, I need to get an accountant for my business," make sure that they kind of understand. Or what I say is, you know what? You don't have to explain anything to them. Just send them to this video, and this video will help explain what type of accountant do you need. Because if you really need a CFO, but your accountant that you hired only focuses on tax or their specialty is taxation, you're probably not going to get what you're paying for. And that's something that I've seen happen more and more, which I'll do a separate video on that because that's something that I see a lot of business owners, I guess you say having a challenge with, where you hired someone that specializes in taxation and they also added on their website that they also do CFO services. I've had like a lot of conversations with a lot of people who specialize in tax that say they also do CFO services. I will tell you flat out, most of them are actually most of them are lying because they just don't know how. The way you do CFO services is a completely different way of thinking about the business than it is when it comes down to taxation. So if you know a business owner that's looking for an accountant or that has questions about an accountant, send them to this video, help them understand there are different types of accountants. The same thing that we did with the car analogy. Not all cars are created equal. Depending on what you need to use it for, that will tell me what type of car you actually need. Same thing with accounting. Depending on what you're trying to do in that area of your business, that'll tell me what type of accountant you really need.